Okay, this chapter is about technology stuff, internet law mostly, right? So what we're going to cover, internet law, social media, and privacy issues. That's a brief outline of the chapter, internet law. We'll talk a little bit about copyright and the digital information age. We did talk about copyright when we talked about intellectual property, so you're already familiar with the topic, but how it applies to the laws on the internet, right? Social media is a big topic of this chapter, online defamation and privacy issues. So internet law, and I'm not going to go over every single one that's mentioned in the textbook. I just picked out a few to keep the chapter short so we can have a discussion. But so spam is the unsolicited junk email that floods virtual mailboxes with advertisements, solicitations, and similar communications. There are laws, spam laws, right? Which is the Federal CAN-SPAM Act. Regulations that regulate spam, what companies have to do. Do you know what are some of the things that spamming companies have to do? Yes.
Like if you say stop, they have to stop. If they send another one, you can sue them.
Yes, you can, if you request to be taken off their lists, their distribution list, and they don't, you can actually sue them. And I think each offense could be $500 or something like that, that they might have to pay out, right? And that could add up, right? I still get a lot of spam, and I unsubscribe from lists that I don't even know how I got on there, and I still, for a few weeks I get less, and all of a sudden I get some other company scam and stuff. But luckily we have the email programs we use, they can sort it out and they send things automatically to something called the junk mail folder. So a lot of them we don't even see, right? There's a US Safe Web Act of 2006. It provides immunity to ISPs. ISPs are internet service providers. What does it mean it provides immunity to ISPs? It means it doesn't hold ISPs responsible for spam, right? Because they can't control everything that goes over their network. It would be the same thing as if you held phone companies responsible for somebody who's calling you on a telemarketing call. They can't control who's going to call who or who's going to send what to who, right? So domain names is a big issue. So the structure of domain names, they're top level domain names, which are, in this example, it says coolexample.com. That's the top level. And then there's second level domain names, which a lot of times are country specific, which is coolexample.co.uk, right? That's a domain name that was more likely to be used by companies located in the UK or that have a separate site for the UK. For example, if you are an Amazon customer and you are shopping here and you're logging onto Amazon, you're going to amazon.com. When you go to the UK, it's amazon.co.uk, right? It doesn't mean it has to be a UK company. It's still the same company, but that is their website for the UK market, right? There's a domain name distribution system, and there's an organization called ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. It's a nonprofit organization that oversees the distribution of domain names and operates an online arbitration system. So what could be the problem with domain names? Why could there be lawsuits about domain names? Diego?
Someone can see that, for example, early on when the internet was just getting started, a lot of people bought major companies' domain names and then sold them off.
They asked for a lot of money.
Price, yeah.
Before the company could buy their own domain name, and they did, because there were no laws really. Nobody knew what they were doing. ICANN was brand new and they didn't know what the rules are and things like that. And then there are domain names that are being hijacked. People through security or not tight enough security, they can steal somebody's domain name and transfer it in their names. Or they can come up with domain names that are similar in the name. For example, Microsoft.com. They could create a domain name micro-soft.com. Under the regulations today, Microsoft could sue and get them to stop to use that name, right? But in the beginning, in the 90s, no. Diego?
Would one of the arguments for suing them could be brand name violation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Trademark infringement and hijacking domain names and things like that, right? So trademark delusion mostly, right? Any questions about domain names? Trademark delusion in the online world, we just said that trademark delusion occurs when the trademark is used without authorization in a way that diminishes the quality of the actual mark, right? Such as coming up with a domain name like that, or such as, there are other ways you can use somebody's trademark without permission, besides just creating a domain name, right? That is not even visible to the consumer. For example, give me two competing companies. Samsung and Apple, just exactly what I was thinking, right? So if Samsung used the term iPhone in their what is it called? The tags, when they create a website, they create tags which indicate what search words should bring this website up in a domain name. So if you go to Google and you search iPhone, companies, mostly Apple related companies or companies that have an agreement with Apple that can use the term, like retailers that sell iPhones, right? Can use in their website, they can use it as tags in their creation of the website, that it'll come up when somebody uses the term iPhone. If Samsung uses it, that would be illegal, right? And what I think they're called meta tags, something. Anybody does?
SEO.
Hmm?
They call it SEO with search.
Search engine optimization is a general term, but the tags is it called? I think they're called meta tags, right? Meta tags, yeah. When you actually the code when you write the web page. Search engine optimization is you want to come up as much as possible, but you can't use your competitor's name or anybody's name without permission, right? For profit. Here's an interesting case. It is Hasbro Entertainment Group. Hasbro versus Internet Entertainment Group. So Internet Entertainment Group is a pornographic website that used the word Candyland.com, the domain name Candyland.com. Candyland also happens to be a game owned by Hasbro. Hasbro does board games, right? And they sued this company, and that was the first case alleging delusion of the trademark on the internet. What do you think happened? Or how would you decide in this case? Just again, very simple. Internet Entertainment Group is a pornographic website that used Candyland.com, which also happens to be the name of one of the games that Hasbro sells.
Misleading the audience,
Sorry?
like misleading the audience, like bringing kids or whatever is playing games to inappropriate.
That's one of the big arguments that Hasbro had, right? Yeah, and were you gonna say something or?
Something along the lines of that, yeah. Because Candyland is supposed to be a family-friendly game, and to have it be associated with internet porn is very well.
Pretty socially a big problem already, right? Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, file full injunction on the whole, like, pornographic website thing of forbidden to use like that domain name because it's kind of diluting my child-friendly image brand for Candyland.
Yes, good, very, very well said. And that's essentially what happened. There was an injunction for them to stop using that name, and they lost the domain name. Diego?
Yeah, considering that they've been using the name Candyland for 51 years previous to this.
You mean the
1996, yeah, the
who
Candyland,
used it?
or Candyland was invented in 1948. The board game.
The board game, yes, it's been around for a long time, right? And as we know, trademarks don't expire as long as they're in use, right? Yeah. Licensing is when a company permits another party to use a trademark under license. Like Apple will allow companies that are reselling their products that they have an agreement with. They will allow them to use Apple. Foot Locker, the athletic shoe company, can use the word Nike because Nike allows them to use it, right? That's a licensing agreement. A licensor might grant, a licensor is the company that owns the name, may grant a license allowing its trademark to be used as part of a domain name also. So I don't know if it exists, but in the example of Foot Locker, it could be footlocker.com/Nike. That has all the Nike products or something like that. They're allowed to do that, right? They will let them do that because Nike will profit from that licensing agreement, right? It frequently includes restrictions that prohibit licensees from sharing the file and using it to create similar software application. Or when it's software is also licensed, right? Software you can license your resellers or partners to use, but they can't share it with others, right? Diego?
If you license your trademark to someone on the agreement of a certain like quality of product, and then there ends up being like negative reviews for the products, like heavily negative reviews that like use your trademark, did you sue them even though you licensed it?
It depends on the agreement and if there were any violations. But let's say a retail store, Foot Locker, uses it and somebody shops at Foot Locker and wasn't happy with the customer service they received. And they put some bad review, and maybe a lot of customers do that. Nike can't do anything about that. They can just not renew it after it expires. But if they violated the agreement, saying they will use the license and they will, use it in a certain way, and maybe sometimes it could be pricing agreements, some whatever it might be, right? If they violate those, then they can terminate the agreement because it's a contract, and if one party breaches the contract, the other party has a right to usually the right to terminate it, not always. We'll talk about that when we talk about contracts, because essentially licensing is a contractual agreement and both parties have to agree to the contract. Of course, I'm sure the contract doesn't say your staff has to be very friendly. That would be unreasonable stuff in the contract, right? Bottom line is, if you want to do a good business, you're going to have friendly customer service reps and retail salespeople and stuff like that. Although it doesn't always happen that way. Anyway, copyright infringement, more, okay, you know what, music and copyright is a big problem. We did talk a little bit about music and copyright as far as copying somebody else's tunes and creating your own songs, but a bigger problem is actually copyright of the music itself, right? There were things like, I'm not gonna go to the Bridgeport example, but MP3 file sharing technology. There was a company, and maybe in the early 2000s, that was called Napster. Has anybody heard about it? Yeah. Where you could do file sharing. All of a sudden, if music was put into MP3 files, and if you had an MP3 file, you uploaded it, and anybody that had an account there could download any song, right? So, and Napster was making good money doing that. So they got shut down because that was infringement on copyright. You can download a song. You can even share it with your family members or something like that for free. But the moment it goes into a business transaction like it did on Napster, you can't. It becomes illegal. It becomes trademark infringement, because now you're taking away business from the original copyright holder, right? Whoever holds the copyright to a song, if a website offers it for free, they're losing money, right? So, but if I let my kids use my account to listen to my songs that I have downloaded, that's not going to be a lawsuit, right? Because they most likely wouldn't have bought the song anyway. It's the same with movies, right? You can invite 100 people to your house and watch a movie for free, as long as you don't charge them, right? The moment you charge them, say, come to my house, I'm going to show this movie, everybody pitch in $5. Now it's a problem. Pitch in $5 for what? For food, that's different, yeah, but you're making money now, right? It's or a movie theater can't do it, right? They have to pay the copyright because they're making money. So that was an abstract example, right? Yeah, you can't share like on a website like that. Social media is a big issue when it comes to internet laws, right? Because it's all on the internet, right? Social media provides a means by which people can create, share, and exchange ideas and comments via the internet, right? It is used in legal processes. It has an impact on litigations, impact on settlement agreements, and impact on criminal investigations. How can it have impact on the litigation in general? Diego?
Defamation.
Defamation, yeah, if the defamation was committed, you look it up, you can trace who posted what a lot of times, right? Sometimes you can't trace it, but a lot of times you can, if it's, yeah. Yeah, what else could, in general, you know, if somebody says, I wasn't there, I was somewhere else, but then they find something on social media, some post that, oh, actually, we found this, you were actually there on this date and this time, because there's a picture of you present at this location. Right, evidence, it can be used as evidence against you or for you, right? You could say, yes, I was there and they didn't believe you, but then there's some kind of post that was there, created on that specific day with a picture of you there, right? Diego, did you want to add something?
I was gonna say, like, sometimes photos have timestamps.
Yes, and also the day and time it was posted on the site, right? Even if the photo doesn't have a timestamp, right? And it can have an impact on settlement agreements. You know, when a company settles behind closed doors for an undisclosed amount, a lot of times it will be an undisclosed amount. You sue a company and it gets settled behind closed doors. Part of the agreement is you're not allowed to talk about your settlement. And there was a case, and I'm pretty sure it was in this textbook, where a family got a lawsuit, and got a settlement, and I don't remember what the lawsuit was about.
The McDonald's, the Hong Kong thing.
No, it wasn't that one.
But she mentioned that one, like that they closed, but they have set up.
Yeah, no, what I'm talking about this case, I'm talking about what happened is, this family got a lawsuit settlement, right? And they went to Hawaii on a vacation. And then the daughter posted online, oh, look, we got this money from that and they're paying our vacation. And they was a violation of the settlement. So they had to, I don't know what happened at the end, but the company said they violated the agreement of the settlement. We want the money back now. Right? So because it's an agreement you do. If you agree, yes, I accept the settlement. I will not sue you in court. If you give me this amount of money, and they say, we will give you this amount of money, you promise not to sue us in court, or you give up the right to sue us, and you will also not talk to anybody about the settlement, about the amount especially. How much was it? And what was the company? What was the lawsuit about?
I'm not to that point yet, but it does say they went to Europe on a vacation.
Oh, Europe, not Hawaii.
Europe, yeah, in the summer. Facebook, she posted on Facebook. Yeah, so basically because of the
Confidentiality agreement, yeah. Yeah, so, if you ever get a settlement, don't talk to anybody about it, because you only need to tell one person, and that's it. You have no more control over who else will know. You just need to tell one person like that. So, and then criminal investigations, again, evidence, right? Yes, Diego?
Do NDAs have an expiration date?
That's a good question. Yes, usually they do. Yeah. Well, it depends, actually. If it's employment agreement NDAs, yes, they do have an expiration date.
Like,
But certain things don't, like if it's about trade secrets, no. They can't say, well, after 3 years, you can talk about our trade secrets. But if they're about, well, I guess they wouldn't have an expiration date, now that I'm thinking about it. Because if it's something that the company wants to keep secret and they're giving up something in order, basically they're risking by letting you know the information, they really don't want that to leak anyhow, right?
Usually the ones that expire are like non-compete clauses. right?
Non-compete clauses expire, that's right, so that's what I got it mixed up. Usually they wouldn't expire, it wouldn't make sense for them to expire, especially lawsuit settlements, right?
So now non-compete clauses are disbanded, right?
It depends on the state, states have different laws. We'll talk about that when we do employment law, we will talk about employment non-compete clauses, right? Anyway, the Electronic Communication Privacy Act prohibits international interception of any wire, oral, or electronic communication. You know, we talked about that when we talked about the right to privacy, the first chapter, remember? You know, but then we had the Patriot Act, which gave the governor the right to actually do that, right? And it didn't do anything. It didn't make this country a safer place. On the contrary, it made it worse, right? Or it probably had no impact. Nothing. It was just a waste of resources, basically. Anyway, it also prohibits the intentional disclosure of use of the information obtained by the interception. So you can, if you intercept and then intentionally use that, and this is not just for government, this is for anybody, right? This is why when you sign up for any online portal or social media or whatever, there's a long agreement that you agree to. And which most of us probably don't read, right? But you're basically agreeing that they can use your information for ABCDA until XYZ, for all these different things, they can use your information. You agree to that. If they don't ask you that and you don't agree to it, they could be in trouble. But by now, companies do. Stored communication. Oh, this had, no, I'm gonna skip that. Yeah. This is just enough about the first part, what you need to know. The rest you can look up, you can look up that case on the textbook, right? Company-wide social media networks. Companies are using social media networks, right, for their advantages, for communication, including Dell, for example, and Nikon Instrument for their own internal social media networks. That's how they communicate, right? It's an important advantage to using an internal system for employee communication so the company can better protect its trade secrets. So it's kind of like a local area network thing, but it's like a social media where only company employees can access that. And where they don't locate with anybody outside the organization about things. Very, very critical, right? And you know, it's very important again that nothing leaks out, that you protect your trade secrets, that it's technologically sound, that it can't be hacked into easily. We still have hacks all the time. We hear about even large companies get hacked into, right? Tech companies that should know better. Anyway, next topic, online defamation. Diego brought it up briefly, right? Which is a big issue on social media as well. Identifying the author sometimes could be a problem. Who wrote this? Where did this come from, right? So, you know, if you know who committed it, then you can take legal action against that person. An internet service provider can disclose personal information about its customers only when it's ordered to do so by a court. So legally, you as a poster of information on the internet are protected. The internet service provider, if you're using Instagram, Facebook does not have to give or cannot give anybody else the information that asks for it specifically for you, unless it's court ordered. There's a court order because it's necessary for an investigation, then they can give that information away. Liability of internet service providers. Should ISPs be regarded as publishers and therefore be held liable for defamatory messages that are posted by their users in online forums or other arenas? What do you think? For example, should Facebook be held liable if somebody commits defamation on a Facebook post? Diego.
I think that Facebook has certain guidelines you have to agree with when using it. So if they don't act accordingly to those guidelines when someone posts something, then yes, they should be held liable. But the original posting itself, no.
What do you mean the original post?
So like, you know how some content is monitored, right? And then taken down.
Yes.
If it's not taken down in a promptly time, then yes, they should be held liable, but the original posting itself is then just using their services in a way that they didn't.
So as long as they take it down within a reasonable time, they shouldn't be held liable.
Yeah.
But if they allow it to exist, they should be held liable.
Yeah.
Which is, What, any other opinions? Yes,
Limited liability. They're not liable unless they have actual knowledge of the defamation being committed.
yes, and sometimes they might not, it might be hard to catch, even with all the algorithms that they have, you know, with individual defamation, it might be really, really hard, right? Yeah. But, you know, to a certain extent, maybe, you know, if they known or should have known about it, if there are defamatory terms being used that should have been caught, right? Because there are a lot of things that Facebook can do to catch those, right? Yeah. That's a general rule. They are kind of held liable, yes, but depending on the thing. Some exception is so there was one fair housing of San Fernando Valley sued roommate.com because roommate.com was a roommate finder that had an option there to select the race of the person that you are willing to share a house with, which is against the Fair Housing Act, by the way. Fair Housing Act says, the race, gender, sexual orientation, and that kind of stuff cannot be advertised as such. If you have a place to rent, you have a place to rent, yeah. So, it violates the Federal Fair Housing Act, right? So, they were held responsible, yes.
So if someone advertises on, say, Facebook Marketplace that they have a room to rent and they say like men only or women only.
Yeah,
Does
you know,
that
that's a good,
violate?
because,
Because I've seen that.
yes, because then, I think there are limitations, of course. If I am a young woman, I probably want a room with another young woman. Or a young man wants a room with another young man or whatever, right? So, that one, yes, you can advertise it yourself, but the drop-down menu shouldn't have that available.
Okay, so
But you can say it,
a business can't have it, but if it's for personal safety, then yes.
of course, yeah. That's a good question. All right, but the biggest topic, and I want to have a discussion for a little bit while we're doing the lecture, and then we'll take it offline, but we have big problems with social media sites, and not just social media, any internet sites, where there are a lot of fake news being spread all over the world, and they even have an impact on how people vote. Right? So my question is, so should social media providers, which is a huge vehicle to spread fake news, by the way, social media, should they be held responsible for spreading fake news? Yes,
Oh,
what's your answer? Yes, Angel, go ahead.
So there is, I guess, an antidote to this.
Okay,
So when someone gets a social media platform, they use it to kind of express their emotions, whether it be true or fake. I feel like social media does do their part in either figuring out whether the post is against their terms and conditions, and if not, they'll either, if it is, they'll take it down. If not, I know Instagram does a fact check on it, so you'll see
They
a
do?
post, and then it says the information on here is incorrect, and then you can click on it and it tells you the correct information.
will it let you publish it if it's not correct?
I don't think so.
That's probably they probably did that because they had, especially Facebook, which owns Instagram, has had a lot of problems with spreading fake news and so they probably implemented that. I didn't know they had that feature now, yeah. And the no, you said yes and no?
Oh, well, no, because it's kind of it's a person, not like the social media platform, I'm saying it's a person with probably a high following saying that stuff.
Yeah, okay, I get you, yeah. And Diego, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I was just gonna add there's opinion pieces and then there's people that actually put quotations around things that are not properly cited, not properly found, something
not
that
true.
they just heard.
Made up.
So I think it's hard to differentiate between those two, but at least the opinion pieces are, if someone's gonna say something, the impact that they have, that's inevitable. But the fact that they're quoting a source that might not be true or might be false, I don't think that the American public is educated enough to follow up on that source for the most part. And that's also a problem that the United States government should have on the education side of things, but it's also a problem for social media providers to help solve.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop the recording and we're going to continue discussing it. I just don't want it to go because some of my online classes have this question. So I will stop the recording and we'll continue talking about it.